Thanks for joining us on Chicago Tonight. I'm Paris Schutz, and here's what we're looking at. Election Day is almost here, and you won't see just candidates on your ballot. You'll also weigh in on numerous referendums, the one known as Bring Chicago Home, specifically what you should know about it. We visit a local lab where some of the most advanced prosthetics in the world are being developed.
And there's no more iconic Chicago St. Patrick's Day tradition than dyeing the Chicago River green.
And if you were downtown today, you saw that the river is still green from this weekend's St. Patrick's Day celebration. We tell you how it all got started. Now, some of today's top stories. Evictions from migrant shelters are underway, although far fewer people were asked to leave than originally thought. City officials evicted 3 from shelters on Sunday. The Johnson administration first told reporters 35 people would be evicted in this initial round, but that was revised down to 34. 31 of them were allowed a reprieve, either because they had proven they were working to secure permanent housing or were pregnant or had disabilities. More than 2,000 migrants living in shelters are set to be evicted by April 30th under the current city policy. A WTTW News analysis finds the city paying big bucks to settle lawsuits from people injured during police pursuits. According to analysis of data, taxpayers spent $51 million from 2019 to 2023 to resolve lawsuits brought by 16 people who were injured during those pursuits. And that's on top of a $45 million lawsuit currently that alleges an unauthorized chase left a 15-year-old boy with a traumatic brain injury and unable to walk or talk. That incident happened in 2021 when a police officer gave chase to a car that failed to stop at a stop sign, which allegedly led to a car crash that left the teen severely and permanently injured. If approved, that settlement would be one of the largest in the city's history. Governor J.B. Pritzker says he wants to find a way to make treatment for sickle cell disease more affordable and equitable. The rare blood disorder affects mostly African Americans and can be very costly to treat. Pritzker was at La Rabida Children's Hospital to announce an executive order for an advisory council to come up with ways the state can make the treatment available to everyone.
Those who are suffering from these diseases won't have to wait a generation before they can access these groundbreaking cures. Indeed, I hope they won't have to wait more than a year.
And early voting wrapped up today. That's, of course, because Illinois' primary election day is tomorrow, March 19th. Here you see some last-minute early voters at the Budlong Woods Library in the city's 40th Ward. And be sure to check out WTTW News' voter guide online for all the information you need on all the big races as you head to the polls. That's WTTW.com/voter guide. And a programming note, tomorrow we will be live at 5:30 and 10 with election analysis and results, so please be sure to join us. And up next, one of those big Election Day issues, the much debated Bring Chicago Home referendum. We debate it again. That's right after this.
Chicago Tonight is made possible in part by the Alexandra and John Nichols family, the Jim and Kay Mabey family, the Polk Brothers Foundation, and the support of these donors.
After weeks of back and forth in the courts, votes for the ballot referendum known as Bring Chicago Home will be counted during Tuesday's election. The question asks voters to decide if they support an increase of the real estate transfer tax on property sales over $1 million. The increased rate would apply to the amount of the sale that goes over $1 million only. The city says the increase will fund efforts to fight homelessness. However, critics are concerned the tax will negatively impact the real estate market and residents. And joining us are Alderman William Hall of the 6th Ward, Reverend Ann Louise Hawk, a leader with Organizing Neighborhoods for Equality, or ONE, North Side, Farzan Parang, Executive Director of the Building Owners and Managers Association of Chicago, and Corey Oliver, a member of the Neighborhood Building Owners Alliance. Welcome all of you. Full house here on Chicago Tonight. So to remind everybody, you saw in that graphic, $0 to $999,999, 0.6% tax rate, $1 million to $1.5 million, 2%, $1.5 million and above 3%, and that's marginal rates just on those amounts and above. So Alderman Hall, it's been dubbed a mansion tax, but Is this going to hit more than just the super wealthy?
Absolutely. What this is about building affordable homes in neighborhoods. We have neighborhoods, but we don't have neighbors. Secondly, it's about wraparound services. Over close to 19% of kids that go to Chicago public schools are unhoused. And last but not least, it's giving opportunities for others who do not have a fair share of a $16 billion economy to get them on their feet to get right back into the workforce.
Ferguson Parang, the Civic Federation came out with a criticism saying it was going to cool off an already chilled real estate market. What do you think the impact is going to be if this passes?
Yeah, I mean, we all, I think, agree we have a big homelessness crisis and housing crisis. Unfortunately, this solution would actually try to address a housing crisis by increasing the cost of housing. It functionally the way our real estate market works. It's going to create a backdoor property tax that affects everybody in the city, every homeowner, renters, condo owners, and in the process actually hurts tens of thousands of union employees that depend on the office industry for support for their jobs.
Reverend Hawk, how many people do you think this could help? And then to Farzan's point, could this actually hurt middle-class folks?
So Bring Chicago Home is not going to hurt middle-class folks. The folks who are going to have to pay this one-time real estate tax when they purchase a building will be folks purchasing buildings that are over $1 million in the city of Chicago. That is around 6 or 7% of real estate transactions every year, and a lot of those folks who are buying those big properties aren't even residents of the city of Chicago. They're folks who are investing in our city, and if they want to invest here, they can help chip in just a little bit to make it a more livable city for the folks who live here.
Corey Oliver, you invest here and you invest in affordable units. What's your concern with this referendum?
Well, 70% of housing, especially apartments in Chicago, are naturally occurring affordable housing by providers like myself. So my concern is that by even adding the one-time cost, the ripple effects are going to be where people are going to recalculate how they're buying things. So you're going to see a loss in value of properties. You're going to see that cause that property taxes are going to have to be sped up and cost more to homeowners as individual homeowners. And then also that is going to create a burden. If those things happen, those are going to cause things that cause the rent to go up. And already in the low-income community, we're already fighting to try to keep our rents low. We're trying to provide housing as cheaply and comfortably as possible for the citizens. We fight every single day for our neighbors and for our renters. We are not some big corporate arm. We are here every single day. I go into my buildings. My tenants know who we are. And we're concerned that it's going to impact their ability to maintain stability, especially the most vulnerable ones who are check to check, creating a barely stable functioning situation. You start to add incremental increases to their daily life, all of a sudden now they're becoming housing unstable, and all of a sudden they're going to become part of that system that we're trying to fix, and this is not the solution for that.
Alderman Hall, what about that concern that, if this hits folks that own multi-unit buildings, it's going to trickle down to renters?
Let's talk about this from this perspective. Again, corporations, real estate corporations, they bundle up these big properties, and now they're making their tenants afraid. Again, if their building is not for sale, there's something that they shouldn't worry about if you're a tenant. Predatory landlords.
We're only talking about this is sales tax, not a property tax.
So these big corporations that bundle up these big old pieces of property, yeah, they're saying to their tenants, yeah, we're going to raise the rent because they want to continue to sell to make money. But again, the question that we must ask ourselves is that these big corporations, real estate corporations that are bundling up these properties and selling them so fast in spaces that are, again, vulnerable populations, the question is, are your selling tactics helpful for tenants? And so whereas someone may live on 79th and Indiana, that property is in a trust or in part of other properties that equal over $1 million. So yes, the little people will pay as the big people continue to make money. So that tactic that the rent is going to go up, the tax is going to go up, that's not necessarily true. They're trying to get somebody to pay for the expense of them selling other properties bundled up in one transaction over $1 million.
Farzan Parang, is that the way you see it as head of the building owners and managers?
No, I mean, I can't speak to apartment side, but on the office side, the people who buy office, their institutional assets, they're not individuals really, right? They're usually pension funds or some big kind of investor. And what happens is that in the way that our office market is, we're in a once in 100-year collapse. This has literally just happened. We have an office building that was bought for 10% of what it used to be worth. First thing that the new owners do, the new institutional investors, is they say, all right, we're not union anymore. They fired every one of the union workers. So this kind of thing, we are competing for that investment from all over the world to come to Chicago, to put Chicagoans to work. So every time we make it harder for us to get that investment in, it hurts everybody in the city.
Reverend Hawk, one of the criticisms from the Civic Federation and others was that this referendum does not outline how this program will work and what the programs will be to get to the homeless folks. What's your idea in terms of how this is going to get to the folks who need it?
So Bring Chicago Home has been organized by a grassroots coalition built across the city, and the money will be put legally in a legally protected trust or a fund that can only be used to address homelessness and its related problems in the city. So there will be an advisory council that will make recommendations about how this fund should be used. The advisory council will need to be approved by City Council, but it will be made up of folks who have lived experience with homelessness in our city. So folks who have experienced homelessness themselves, folks who are service providers who are out there in the field and really have a lot of expert knowledge about what is needed to help address the problem of homelessness in Chicago.
All right, Corey Oliver, I mean, everyone acknowledges that homelessness is a problem. There needs to be ways to address it. From your perspective, is there a way that would work out better than Bring Chicago Home?
I mean, I think, so my history is I grew up through Streetwise. My dad is the founding executive director of Streetwise, so I've been around homelessness almost my entire life, since I was about 12 years old. And one of the things that we've looked at is always through economic empowerment, right? So looking at ways to grow people's earning income, looking at ways to, provide them with stable growth and affordable wages, I think is the way that you address it. I think what this problem is going to do is it's going to continue to exacerbate a problem. And not only is it not going to solve the problem, it's going to create other set of problems, because although the alderman is correct that there are corporations who do come in and buy, but a lot of the owners in Chicago who own properties, they're small people just like me who are just coming in. We're trying to bridge that wealth divide for the black community. We're coming in as black families who have been in Chicago, and we're trying to invest in our communities. And it is part of the equation. When you add the transfer tax, even though it's a one-time tax, you're now adding an additional fee with the acquisition. So now it becomes cost prohibitive for us to buy this property. Now it becomes cost prohibitive to continue to build our own family wealth as we're trying to grow and stabilize.
Alderman Hall, what do you believe the realistic estimates for revenue? I mean, you're saying $100 million every year, but isn't the market volatile?
So again, let's talk about the market. Number one, when he talks about economic empowerment, wards 6 through 9 have 99.89% of properties less than $1 million. Come to our ward and buy. And in Chicago Empowerment Zone, where you pay no taxes, why can't we have a Google build a downtown version of that in the 6th ward? Let's go to Stephanie Coleman's ward, alderwoman of the 16th. 100% of her property is less than $1 million. So the opportunity to come to empower economics is in neighborhoods. Again, these neighborhoods build the employees that go downtown. Why can't you come and buy in those neighborhoods? Secondly, when we talk about affordable housing, that's 1,000 jobs created. Back in the day, someone would go work on a home and then walk to a local bar, get a drink, and then walked home. Again, the point is that you want people to work in the communities where they live. And so when we talk about affordable housing, which will come out of the $100 million projected as a result of this sustainable economic formula, then people will be able to work in the community. What would the day look like if someone goes to Simeon, get trained at Simeon, and then be able to walk down the street from where they went to high school and put the plumbing in, the electricity in, and the roof over a home that's affordable for someone to live in?
So, I mean, a portion of this money will go to just affordable housing,
which is job creation. And
not 100% subsidized.
A portion of those homes will go to affordable housing. Affordable home is simply this. If my home is less than $1 million, let's say $300,000, someone can live next door to me and that home might be $150,000, $200,000. It doesn't hurt when you got 10 of those. Corporations only come to neighborhoods and wards where there are roof counts. Right now, for the third time, we have neighborhoods with no neighbors. If we want corporations to come do deal flow in local communities, we need rooftops. And this will not only bring people off the street to get them a roof, but it builds a home for someone to live.
As far as in, there were lawsuits. It was successful at the lower court, overturned the appellate court. State Supreme Court didn't hear it. Will there be further legal action after this whole referendum takes place?
Well, the driving factor of the lawsuit is that we felt that the way that they crafted this referendum was unethical and illegal. And the purpose of that was to attempt to get a more honest, transparent question put before the voters. So I don't know is the answer to your question. We're going to see how this all shakes out.
All right, Anne Marie Hawk, last word here. How do you think this vote is going to go tomorrow?
Well, I am excited to see the community that has worked so hard over so many years really bring Chicago home. We've got 68,000 people who are unhoused in our city. Of that, 17,000 of them are students in Chicago public schools. How are you supposed to study, get an education, apply for a job if you don't have a place to live? You know, I'm a person of faith, and my scriptures tell me that where your heart is, there your treasure will be too. My heart is with the people of our city of Chicago who need homes, and we can't wait to bring them home.
We're going to see what happens tomorrow, and then, of course, it's going to go back to City Council one way or another. My thanks to Alderman Hall, Farzan Parang, Reverend Ann Louise Hawk, and Corey Oliver. Thank you all for being here.
Thanks so much for having us.
And again, be sure to join us tomorrow night live at 5:30 and 10 for our special election night coverage. We'll be bringing you results on the Bring Chicago Home referendum and other races, as well as analysis with our Spotlight Politics team. And if you're heading to the polls, please check out our online voter guide for details on where to vote and information on all of the candidates. That's at WTTW.com/voter guide. And up next, a look at the next generation of bionic prosthetics. Stay with us. The World Health Organization estimates at least 30 million people around the world need some form of prosthetic limb, and global conflicts from Ukraine to Gaza are only serving to drive those numbers higher. But artificial limbs have come a long way, and at the Shirley Ryan Ability Lab in downtown Chicago, the next generation of bionic prosthetics are being developed. Producer Paul Kane visited to find out more and caught up with sculptor Terry Karpowitz, who lost a leg in a motorcycle crash in 1975 and who we first met in 2019.
My initial leg was a leather socket with two metal bars that went down to a piece of plywood, a flat piece of plywood. And I have seen the progression over the years of all the different iterations, going from a wooden leg to a fiberglass leg, and now a powered knee. And it's very exciting. And it's, you know, it's my way of making lemonade.
There have been tremendous advances in the last 20 years since I've been working in the field, both in the terms of bionic arms and bionic legs. There was kind of a plateau for many years in the technology that was available. It was very passive, sticks and springs. Bionic legs started to become computerized at the end of the 1990s, and then we started adding more sensors to them and motors to them to give a sense of response to the user when they pushed against it better.
These are the things that I love because this is what I can't do with my normal leg. This leg actually powers me up the stairs, so I don't have to do, drag one up.
I've been with this team for over 10 years now, and the first device we had was quite a bit heavier, but it did provide power and provided assistance. To see the progression to the device that we are working with today has been amazing. It's definitely gotten lighter. We've been able to use it on people that have a little bit less function. Terry is very able to move around on his own and performs very well in his life. So right now we're at the point where we're trying this device on people who need a little bit more help.
As soon as I felt like the leg was not going to fail me, I started taking advantage of what it could do, and so far I haven't been able to break it. I would compare it to a Tesla as opposed to a pickup truck.
On the left side of the screen, all those signals are the muscles. So we've got the textile fabric on his residual limb, and those are different muscles that are firing while he's walking and climbing up and down the stairs. On the right side of the screen is how we control it. So each one of those boxes are different activities. One is walking, standing, stairs, ramps. And as he goes through these different activities, you'll see all of those kind of light up. So our engineering team can make adjustments to all of those parameters. So if Terry wanted to change how much the leg was swinging, or if he wanted more power going up and down stairs, we can adjust all of that.
The Department of Defense is certainly interested in this technology. They funded a lot of the original work, and they continue to fund it. They have a vested interest in doing the best for the wounded warriors. The new conflict in Ukraine has resulted in an extraordinary number of new amputees that need technology like this or other technology. We use components from other industries wherever possible. It's a conscious strategy because we're trying to reduce overall cost. And so if we're using batteries, of which there are several million made for the car industry, we can get them at a reasonable cost. If we're using microcontrollers used in the cell phone industry, we can get them at a reasonable cost.
Here we have the hybrid leg and the polycentric ankle. Here, we have the electronics boards distributed around the leg. Those are kind of the brains of the system. We have quite a few sensors on here. There's an encoder here to tell us the knee joint angle. And we have another sensor down here, which is a load cell to kind of tell us when people are stepping. I mean, motors and electronics and robotics have been around for many, many, many years, and people kind of know how to control things, but getting it to work well with people, that's kind of the biggest challenge. And getting it to be reliable, make sure every step is good, that's really difficult.
Our number one priority at the moment is to make it quieter. And so that might seem like a simple thing to do, and I'm sure that we can make it a bit quieter using this design. But in order to really make it, let's say, silent, we're going to have to make some changes, and that's what the engineering team is working on now.
Early prosthetics were a device that I had to don in the morning. I had to pay attention to it. This powered leg is part of me. I don't have to think about it. I have to don it like I have to do anything, like a pair of pants. I don't have to think about it. It's from my intentions. Whatever I want to do, it's there to support me.
I've worked in industry before, and although it's nice to make products that get out there and people use. They don't really help people. A lot of products they're made to make money. It's nice to work on something that I can see it helping someone. The best part of it is the fact that we get to put it on a subject and see them walk on it and enjoy it and enjoy something new.
We're kind of at the cusp of this bionic leg technology kind of transforming clinical care. And you're seeing a few products come onto the market. Some use similar technologies, some leverage improvements we've made here into their own products. And we think that we have a path to push this further.
A leg like this will change someone's life overnight.
Certainly incredible technology. And up next, looking at the fascinating history behind a uniquely Chicago tradition. But first, we take a look at the weather. St. Patrick's Day may have come and gone, but the Chicago River is still green. In case you missed it or you're new to Chicago, the city dyes the river green every St. Patrick's Day. On Saturday morning, the river dyeing crew turned the water a whimsical shade of emerald between Orleans and Columbus, with thousands there to watch, and the color held on through the weekend until today. So you ever wonder how it all got started? Here's Eunice Alpasan with the latest edition of our series, WTTW News Explains.
St. Patrick's Day in Chicago. While for some the holiday may mean green beer and lots of partying, one thing's for certain, Chicago's estimated 200,000 residents of Irish heritage take their traditions seriously. And there's no more iconic Chicago St. Patrick's Day tradition than dyeing the Chicago River green. The history of the Green River flows back to the local plumbers union. They've been sponsoring the dye job for more than 60 years. The story goes, as the plumbers tell it, that business manager Stephen Bailey got the idea from seeing a plumber in stained green coveralls. See, the city was working to enforce restrictions on waste going into the river during construction projects, and so plumbers were using dye to help trace the flow of wastewater and detect leaks. Bailey and his pal, Mayor Richard J. Daley, initially considered dyeing Lake Michigan before ultimately picking a portion of the more manageably sized Chicago River. And so, in 1962, the river got its first festive dye job. Bailey waxed poetic, telling reporters the dye would connect the city to Ireland, flowing from the Chicago to the Illinois River, onto the Mississippi, up the Gulf Stream, and across the Atlantic into the Irish Sea. The city has tried a few dye distribution methods over the years, but today a couple of motorboats do the job, turning a roughly quarter-mile stretch of the river downtown just the right shade, using what organizers say is an orange vegetable-based powder that turns green on contact with the water. The exact dye recipe has always been a closely guarded secret. Some local environmental groups have pushed back against the tradition, like Friends of the Chicago River, who feel it harkens back to a bygone era when the river was treated as a quasi-sewer rather than a living body home to fish and wildlife. But regardless of one's stance, there's no denying the tradition's influence. Other U.S. cities have taken the idea, dyeing their own rivers and canals each March. And with thousands gathering along the Chicago River every year to see it all unfold, the tradition doesn't seem ready to die anytime soon.
All the way out to Ireland, that's a bit fanciful. And you can see more from our Emmy Award-winning series WTTW News Explains on our website at WTTW.com/explains. And that's our show for this Monday night. If you're heading to the polls tomorrow, be sure to check out our online voter guide for details on where to vote, information on the candidates, and where they stand on the issues. That's all at WTTW.com/voter guide. And on a programming note, be sure to join us tomorrow night at live at 5:30 and 10 for special election night coverage. And now for all of us here at Chicago Tonight, I'm Paris Schutz. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.
Closed captioning is made possible by Robert A. Clifford and Clifford Law Offices, a Chicago personal injury and wrongful death firm that is proud to recognize its 18 attorneys selected for the 2024 Super Lawyers List.